Good morning, flickin' fanatics, at least for those of you here over on the Pacific Northwest side of things. But for everyone else, good mid-afternoon. And if you are some of our friends in the UK, God knows what time it is over there. Today we got a lot of fun things to talk about. We got a Crow reboot happening, maybe, again? We'll see. Sonyverse, is it in trouble? How's Morbius looking? And WB won't talk about Ezra. No. We do have a full musical number coming up here now that I have my guest star Chris Anthony Lopez on with me today, but we will be talking to you guys right after this. Full disclaimer. Well, hello. I took like 2 weeks off. We're not ready for this one yet. 2 weeks off because of a funeral, and also I caught the Rona, so I'm really rusty and nothing's coming out smooth. And this is my third video I've done in like 12 hours. So look at this. Look at this mess going on here.
It looks
Chris
great
Anthony
to me, man.
Lopez, always welcome on the show. How are you doing today, buddy?
I feel great, man. Thank you for inviting me on. I know it's been a minute since we've done a little video. Like literally it's been a minute because we just did the Doctor Strange thing together, which is on the channel as we speak. And if you're watching this after the fact, go ahead and check that out. But like you out here, last time I was on the channel, you didn't have the intro video, but I've seen it 100 times and it's pretty damn rad.
100 times. That's right. You were telling me how often you listen to the music. Big fan of it.
Yeah.
Hey, Matty Gunner. I heard he's rushing home currently to watch Battle of the Barracks for all you skateboarding fans and nerds out there.
Word.
That's some cool stuff. We got some interesting things to talk about today. It's going to be a little off the cuff, not super organized, but let's get into it, buddy. Let's get into it here. Bring up this banner here. We'll talk about our first topic. Something that is plagued or has been plagued about as much as, I don't know if you remember everything that happened with Gambit, or the amount of times that The Flash has changed directors, writers, and everything else over the last couple of years before it finally finished. The Crow is something that has been on a very similar boat. There's been many different actors, writers, and things associated with The Crow. Some of the actors that have been in position to be the lead of Eric Draven, originally portrayed by Brandon Lee. You had Jason Momoa, Jack Houston, Norman Reedus, Luke Evans, and even Tom Hiddleston were all at some point attached to a Crow reboot. And because of the tragedy of what happened with Brandon Lee, I'm sure you're familiar with, a lot of people have deemed it to be a cursed property, something that shouldn't be touched. I disagree. I think The Crow is very rich for a reboot if you have the right people behind it. Now, we have news on that front. Rupert Saunders, known for the much beloved Ghost in the Shell live action adaptation with international superstar Scarlett Johansson, as well as Snow White and the Huntsman, two films that were released in theaters.
Nailed it.
Okay. Every time they've announced that they're working on this reboot, I've gotten excited, legitimately. Like, this person's going to be Eric Draven. And I'm like, awesome. Mm-hmm. And then it falls apart. And they're like, this person's attached to direct. I'm like, great. Mm-hmm. Now they're saying that Rupert Saunders and Bill Skaarsgard. I have nothing against Bill Skaarsgard. I love him as Pennywise. Mm-hmm. He's good in Hemlock Grove. He's a good, creepy guy. He was also in Atomic Blonde and things.
He was
not the fit. Just because.
Oh, we don't like Bill Skaarsgard.
Not for Eric
in this
Draven.
movie.
We don't, because it feels like such a Hollywood move. It's like we've seen this guy in white face paint with like the black lines over there, and I was like,
typecasting him.
Yeah, I guess with Pennywise is like the red tears almost, and Eric Draven is, at least when it was portrayed by Brandon Lee, it was like a hunk of a goth rocker, you know, and I don't see that for Bill Skarsgård. Like, look at what they had before. Like, when Jason Momoa and Bill Skarsgård have never been up for the same role before in their entire lives.
Right.
Now, there's a lot of different interpretations. The Crow is a mantle that's been passed around. Different people have been the Crow. So if they were to say it's not Eric Draven, I'd say, okay. But they are saying that's who it is. Anyways, some of my 2 cents on the casting and direction. I just want to know, as somebody that hasn't seen The Crow, the goth classic that it is, what are some of your thoughts on this news?
So I haven't seen The Crow myself, but I am more than aware of what the legacy is of that film, both famously and infamously. But I've also seen this movie get announced multiple different times on multiple different fronts. And for as long as I've been in this whole movie news space, The Crow pops up, I feel like every other year or every couple years. And that's, that happens to a lot of projects. A lot of projects come in, they get announced, and they fall apart. And we're going to talk about some in a little bit when we talk about Sony. Yeah, damn right, Kyle, for the MCU, that never stops. That will never stop. Thanks, Black Loki. I appreciate that, brother. But with The Crow, I can just look at it from like a filmmaking standpoint. I like Bill Skarsgård and Rupert Saunders. I may not be the biggest fan of his filmography, but folks have come into new projects with a iffy past, and I've at least iffy in regards to actual film quality, and have proven me wrong. But I want to spotlight something that really fascinates me. The writer of this version of the script, his name is Zach Baylin. I hope I got that right. And he just came off of writing King Richard. So
that is interesting.
Just got an Oscar nom, and you mentioned that this movie's gone through multiple iterations, and I'm assuming that this version of the character is not the same one Jason Momoa was signed on to do. The same one that Norman Reedus.
Same character, but different.
Well, not the same version, right? Like the same interpretation. Whatever.
None of the same teams. Yeah.
Exactly. Like whatever the insight is. Like I don't even know what studio does. So what studio owns The Crow? I
don't know at this point now.
Because that's something that I am like. I will. I won't believe this movie's happening until they're there shooting, and they are just waiting to, they're on set, lights, camera, action, all this fun stuff. Like that's when I'll decide whether to get hype for this, because I have no prior knowledge to go off of. Like I haven't seen the '90s version, the only version of The Crow that I know of.
We got Pat in the chat saying The Crow is such a 90s movie. It is, but it revels in it. And Heath Ledger has been noted to make reference to Brandon Lee's performance as Eric Draven as one of the inspirations for the character. I showed my wife The Crow for the first time a couple of years ago, and she really liked it. I think there's a lot of fun to be had. Everyone loves a good tale of revenge, and I think The Crow is one of the most beautiful examples of that.
I'm trying to find the studio for him. I can't, at least in this Hollywood Reporter article, but that's besides the point, because this movie, again, it's gone through multiple iterations. I won't believe it until Bill Skarsgård's on set. They are actually shooting, scenes, and it's
and how sus that a plagued project gets announced a revival on April Fool's. Like, right. I wasn't going to talk about it, and then I started seeing everybody talk about it, and I looked at the original source was like the Hollywood Reporter. I was like,
Right, and big trades like that, like if they were to keep rolling with this and not have unconfirmed it, it would hurt their rep. So they wouldn't take that risk. Right. And this is still up on their website. You can go check out the article. But it's hard to not talk about The Crow without talking about what happened to Brandon Lee. And I know a good buddy of ours, Taylor Robinson, she tweeted a couple hours ago, I believe, that she's not superstitious, but it's hard not to be superstitious in regards to what happened to Brandon Lee on the original film. And I know some folks are worrying maybe it's a bad omen why this movie hasn't been remade, but
what's
we'll
funny
see.
is it hasn't been remade, but it had like 2 sequels and a TV show, and people like to pretend like those never happened, which understandably they're bad. So I would also pretend like they didn't happen.
I didn't know this TV show existed. I knew about the sequel, but not the TV show.
Yeah. I don't know.
For good reason.
I've gone from like, oh, I'll believe it when I see it, to now like I believe it, but I don't want it. Like this has been the one incarnation thus far that I'm like, yeah, that's not the pick for me. I was trying to pull up some images. There was some test footage that came out of Jason Momoa in the makeup and stuff. He looked phenomenal, but they were kind of low grade, so I didn't upload them onto the stream. But you guys can look that up on Google. There's also like a minute of footage there of them doing some test footage of it. All right. Well, with that, let's move on to a favorite topic of the channel, Morbius. And Morbius. I mean, I'm going to keep that joke running as long as I can until it gets tired. I smelled this fart coming a mile away. I say that as somebody who hasn't watched it, because as we spoke about on the
we don't talk about Morbius.
Hello.
we don't talk about Morbius.
Sean.
We don't talk about Morbius. If you look in the mirror and say Morbius 3 times, Sean will appear behind you and go, no.
Don't tempt me like that. I'll go do it right now.
I waited until the day up to finally cancel my ticket for it. Wow. Sometimes you don't want to sit in a theater for 2 movies when you know ahead of time you're not going to enjoy yourself. And everything that I was hearing was not, hey, this is so bad, it's fun. It was just that it was bad. And the post-credit scenes had already been spread through the internet like wildfire. Yeah. So having heard those, I said, I don't want to have to burn my eyeballs out when I get home, because those sound like the worst things I've ever heard of. Currently, this movie is sitting at, I believe, a 16% critic approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes and 65% audience, which that's quite a difference. 65 is still fresh. It's still about 20% above Eternals, which I don't want to talk about that. But
you want to talk about Eternals? Let's talk about Eternals.
Let's not talk about Eternals. I've said about 300 times. That's how you know I haven't done this for a while. Morbius is still looking to be set to make about $30 to $40 million opening weekend, which in the height of the pandemic, we would say that's respectable. But I think now, having movies like The Batman and No Way Home, which are obviously more popular properties, but we've seen that movies can hit their potential currently. So then I think the next comparison I would make would be Venom. And when the original Venom came out, I believe it made 80 to 90 million opening. So double what they're projecting for Morbius right now. I have heard that Morbius is made on a smaller budget, so maybe they can survive this, but it doesn't sound that impressive. And I'm hearing a lot of people bring up empty theaters in their screenings. So maybe the projection's actually higher than what it will end up getting. Where do you think it's going to sit? How are your feelings about Morbius?
I was surprisingly optimistic about Morbius from the second we got a trailer up until about 2 or 3 days ago. Like, I didn't buy a ticket. I didn't plan a screener. I didn't do any of that. I actually thought about going last night, but for other reasons, I didn't go. Madigan and I was okay with this movie until the post credits. Okay. Yeah. And like what Jesse said, the post credits were leaked online. A buddy of mine who planned to go see it spoiled himself on the post credits, hated them beforehand, hated them even more once he saw with the context of the film. And this is all before I even got the chance to even think about seeing it. So I'm very curious to see how Morbius does in its opening weekend. And
I just want to point out, our technician now has given you, if you look right above your head, you have your own.
Oh, follow me on Twitter. Right there, Cal, boom. But thanks,
STE, Sean the engineer.
Yeah, STE. Yeah. Wait a minute. No, I don't think I'll stick. But yes, follow me on Twitter. But Morbius, the reactions haven't been too kind to it, and I know a buddy of yours, William Bibiani. I'm dropping names like a mother trucker today. He hated it.
Ex-buddy of mine.
Yeah, ex-buddy of yours. In a past life, he was a buddy of yours. But he hated it, and I had buddies of mine watch it whom they're not like critics. They're not like us who are super in the movies and stuff, and they liked it. They tolerated it. And that's why I thought to myself, oh God, this is not good then. And I'm scared to go see it, but I feel like I need to, just so I can see what everyone's talking about.
So what a new hobby of mine that I have is I was talking to you in between shows about how I do a lot of my work for the show on my walks. I pull out my phone, I'll build thumbnails, set up the stream, stuff like that. Another thing that I've been doing for studying, for those of you that know that the Jackal participates in a little thing called Movie Trivia Schmodown, I watch the worst movies on my walks. And I'll do it over the course of like a few walks. Like I watched X-Men, or I watched The Dark Phoenix over the course of about 4 different walks because I'd never seen it. It was horrible. I did the same for New Mutants because I didn't want to take extra time out of my day to watch these movies. So I was like, I'm just walking, which I was already going to do. And that's when I'll watch these horrible movies. Morbius will be my next one. I will watch Morbius on a walk when it goes.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, I'm invested in the Sonyverse solely because I want to see some of my favorite Spider-Man adjacent characters on screen. And if this is the only way we can get them, then sure. Don't get me wrong. I hated the idea of a Venom solo movie. I hated the idea of a Morbius solo movie. I currently don't like the idea of a Kraven the Hunter solo movie. Those things.
That cast is getting lit real quick.
Oh, the cast is nuts. But I'm still bothered at the idea that it exists because I want to see these characters with a Spider-Man, and we don't know for sure if we're gonna get one. Sony can sit here and tell us like, oh, it may be connected to Andrew Garfield, but I won't buy it until you show it to me. Because if Sony is proven that
Andrew deserves better. I entertained that idea, but now I want nothing to do with it. I would be like, I would rather Andrew retire from Spider-Man than get involved in this muddy shite pile.
And you're talking to somebody who I enjoy the first Venom movie. I liked it. The second one was a movie that came out and I saw in the theater. But this one, like the reaction is just so puzzling. And how's Kraven going to pan out? So you want to talk about casts, right? For Kraven the Hunter? Okay, let's talk about casts for this movie. Jared Leto, say what you want about him. Like Jared's done good stuff before. I mean, he's still around. Folks like what he does. And
he
Black
has
Lotus
an Academy Award. He looks great for 50.
Right. He's an Academy Award winner. Who else is in this? Michael Keaton. Apparently not so much anymore. Matt Smith. I know my boy Tyrese Gibson.
Yeah. Like, who I've heard countless times has no business in the movie.
And
Jared Harris.
Yeah, right.
Always iconic Jared Harris.
I've seen him in trailers, and I'm like, what the hell are you doing in this movie, Tyrese Gibson? Like, why? Why God? But I'm still fascinated at the idea. I'm like, Morbius, the living vampire, is in a movie, and somehow, some way, it's incredibly shitty. I don't know if I can swear on this program, but I'm going to, and that'll be my word.
Already did.
But I just don't understand how Sony, it's laid out for you. The formula, you're collaborating with the person who perfected the cinematic universe, perfected it, right? And Kevin Feige in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and you are still fumbling the bag. How?
For those of you that know the post-credit scenes, like it's not only they're not only muddying and I feel like messing up their own universe, their business relationship with the MCU, I think, is becoming detrimental possibly to both. And I don't know what that means. I would say that maybe it's time for them to split, but outside of animated, I don't trust Sony adapting anything in the Spider-Verse. I am not a fan of either Venom movies. I despise both of them. And so people that are saying that Morbius is like Venom but less fun, I was like, this ain't for me then. It's not for me.
Is that a genuine like review? Like Morbius is Venom but less fun? That's upsetting.
Yeah.
That's not a good thing.
No.
And maybe it's because of the charm of Tom Hardy. Like I find Tom Hardy incredibly charming in movies, and Jared Leto I can't say the same for. But apparently he's still good. I know STE in the back said that Jared Leto is the best part
People
of this
are going to
movie.
think we're calling him STD,
And that's why I said we should shut that down, but I think it's pretty funny. But Sean says he's the best part of the movie. Okay, like that's rad, but there are a lot of bad movies with great actors and great decent performances in them.
Will Smith is in the Suicide Squad.
Yeah, and I like him as Footlock.
I mean Suicide Squad, not the Suicide Squad. I don't want anyone from the Schmodown taking notes on that.
No,
by the way, a note for those of you watching that are currently fans of the Schmodown, they thought that they would do the very polite thing and reschedule Friday Night Titans for the same time as our show currently. So those of you that are the 3 or 4 of you that are watching right now, we appreciate you. But make sure that after this you head over to the Schmodown channel and give a like, because you might see some familiar faces up there. I can't confirm anything. I have a NDA that I had to sign. Maybe not.
It's me. I'm on Titans. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
But
Chris is an IG match. I trained him well.
Yes, you did. But this
don't feel bad about that TKO, man.
The Sony thing is so fascinating to me, and like again, like my buddy Victor, I'm gonna shout him out because he texted me a couple days ago and he asked me, how can Sony still continue to produce bad live action movies, at least in recent memory, but they're the same studio that released Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Like it's the same studio, and it's the same heads, the same Spider-Man people that have been producing Spider-Man for 20 years. They did that movie and they did this. How? Where's the difference? And I kept trying to make up some BS. Oh, it's animated. You can get away with stuff in animation. But
and I think another thing is like, I think that they weren't putting all their eggs in a basket. And so when they came up with the concept of doing Into the Spider-Verse, they left it alone. But they're so overly invested in their live action verse that they are basically making fan four stick over and over again.
That's a good point. Oh, and thank you, Matty Gunner. I appreciate the love. I'm trying.
Cal for the movie trivia showdown and also for the MCU.
I'm just and for the MCU. But it's frustrating. And I know we're gonna get across the Spider-Verse. Was it next year?
Part
like
1.
Summer next year. And that hopefully that's fantastic. And I hope they carry on the same success as the first film. Because if this is what we're going to get out of live action Sony movies without a Spider-Man in them, who, regardless of who it is, Andrew, Tom, me, I don't care who the Spider-Man is. I don't like what you said, Jesse. I don't want to see this. I don't want to see stuff in this universe. Because Let There Be Carnage was not good. Sorry, Andy Serkis. It wasn't good. And,
or Naomi Harris.
Right. Damn. The whole cast of that movie. Talk about casts. And then you get this garbage fire. Regardless of the audience score, folks aren't digging it. No. But we'll tell with how the reception is next week's box office. Not this week.
Absolutely.
Next week.
I'd be curious to talk about that next week. Well, as you know, on the show, we like to move on from one train wreck for another. So rounding out our topics today, we're going to be talking about some news. And I think the week started out with a lot of people talking about the events of the Oscars. And there's some other stuff that seems to be getting swept under the rug once again. We're going to talk about Ezra Miller to some degree, because Ezra Miller, this individual, I think, is a problem. They have never been my favorite part of anything that I have seen them in. And I am trying to correct myself because I recently found out about a shift in pronouns, so I'm doing my best to respect that now. So it is they and them for Ezra. Always the pick for Barry Allen never fit for me. I didn't think that Ezra. It's weird. Like Momoa, I felt like was a very distinct choice for the Aquaman that they wanted to do.
Yeah.
As was Ben Affleck, as was Henry Cavill, as was Gal Gadot. Ezra never made sense for me. And I think that in the Snyder Cut, they were allowed to shine a bit more, but still the whole design of the character was off. And I think in Fantastic Beasts, Ezra's also potentially the weak link in that. And I'm saying these to say that I don't think either franchise needs Ezra as an actor in the roles. But all that to be said, that there's a lot of violence and alcohol abuse that we've been seeing recently, whether it was the initial thing that Warner Brothers swept under the rug, where there was video footage of Ezra Miller choking a girl to the ground, and Warner Brothers ignored it. And some people are saying that it was fake, but it's seeming less likely now that more reports are coming out that Ezra was arrested in Hawaii, and there's now been reports coming out that the cops have had 10 different calls and complaints about Ezra just in the last couple months in Hawaii. That's problematic. We'll go into some more detail, but currently, Chris, what are you thinking right now about some of the news that's come out about Ezra Miller, about the potential future in some big franchises? What should Warner Brothers be doing? What are they not doing? Go.
Before I become very negative, I do want to correct something I said not too long ago about Across the Spider-Verse. STE in the back told me that Across the Spider-Verse comes out later this year in October, which makes me a very happy boy. So yes, please. Thank you, Sean, in the back. Now to things that don't make me happy. Ezra Miller. Ezra Miller, when he was casted as Barry Allen, I gave him the benefit of the doubt. Like yourself, I not to bring up the CW every time I can, but
speaking of STE, really quick though, I do have to bring up, because we talked about Morbius for a second. If you guys haven't already watched it, I've watched it twice now. I don't know why. Maybe Sean's the only person I like to listen to, but we do have a Morbius review right here, and we'll put the link in the chat so you guys can check it out. Go over, give it a like. We're trying to get up to 100 views, and it's getting pretty close. So appreciate you very much. Chris, continue on with what you were saying.
It's funny because the face Sean makes in the thumbnails also how we view Ezra Miller nowadays, which is a very big bummer. You know, Warner Brothers gave him 2 franchises. Exactly. Thank you, Sean. Gave him 2 franchises at the same time. You give him The Flash and you give him a part of Fantastic Beasts. Okay, those are your 2 tent poles right there. And
Ezra's a Dumbledore.
Right.
That's a big deal.
Right.
Spoilers
now,
for Crimes of Grindelwald.
Yeah. And now at this point, we're probably, and Maddie Gunner pointed it out in the chat, like Johnny Depp had all these horrible things happen in his life that were directly involved with him. And I don't want to get into if he did it, she did it, whoever. But Johnny Depp, they were quick to recast him. And they dropped him once everyone was like, hey, yo, Johnny Depp's a piece of garbage. And they dropped him, they recasted him, and we're all like, cool. All right, Mads Mikkelsen, great choice. Fantastic. Beast. And now with Ezra Miller, okay, cool. I know that they're in production hell with this Flash movie. They've been in production hell for years, and they got the movie done just to push it back for reshoots. Now this comes out, doubling down on Ezra Miller's past with being just a not good person. And do we, as a film space,
I'm going to comment on what Pat's saying in the chat too, because I have some thoughts. Go ahead. Yeah,
but we're sitting here, like, for the folks that know about Ezra Miller, and I know there are probably people who don't know what they're doing, but my excitement for the Flash decreases every time I hear about something.
Almost daily at this point.
Right. Like, it's like, oh, I was very excited to see the Flash for a plethora of reasons. They push it back. Damn. Ezra Miller is even further a not good person. Oh, well, great. Because the whole choking incident that you mentioned, I don't want to talk about the stuff in Hawaii because I'm not too knowledgeable on the whole situation, but it's still real life. And we're keeping the same energy. Let's do it for everybody, including
dealing with death threats now. threats of violence, multiple like aggravated assaults, being kicked out of karaoke bars for going on stage and ripping mics out of people's hands. Just terrible behavior. And I think, obviously we're not there for any of these events, but the bottom line, I would think, is that Ezra Miller needs help. They need to be separated, I think, from acting and from these roles that they are involved in. And the studios or somebody needs to get Ezra help. And I think that, I don't know if it's because of their involvement in Hollywood, but obviously they're going down a path that is not so great. So I would love to see Ezra take maybe 5 years off, get some help, get separated, and come back stronger than ever. But as of right now, I am not interested in like anything they are doing portrayal wise. And I've heard that they've done some really great stuff with some indie films, but as far as the blockbuster work, nothing's really grabbed me. So I think it is time that moving forward, obviously it's too late for Secrets of Dumbledore and The Flash, but they should be, I think, recast and replaced. And Flash has to deal with time travel and alternate dimensions and stuff, and you're already changing your Batman, so let's just change Flash.
I'm in the camp where, like, again, you recasted Johnny Depp, and as Pat points out in the chat, they kept Amber Heard, and that's a whole different conversation.
I think just if you're gonna make that move, get rid of both of them, because nobody seems to be innocent. Like I choose not to take a hard stand on facts that I don't know. Nobody seems to be innocent in that scenario. We can argue who's more guilty, but I think if it's that much of a problem, remove them both. If you're trying to tell me that Mira is irreplaceable or that Amber Heard is such a acclaimed actress that she's not replaceable, I beg to differ. There are so many people that could do a better job of that role than Amber Heard. She's seems to come across a little bit like a stunt casting. There's not a lot of depth there. So yeah, just clean slate, wipe it out. I wouldn't be mad if the whole DC universe honestly rebooted at this point, but go ahead.
I mean, that's what the Flash movie I thought was supposed to do. I thought that was the whole intention of the Flash movie, so we can just clean slate everything. Everyone gets recast. You bring Michael Keaton back, whatever, boom, boom, boom. But then the stuff with Ezra comes out and what they're doing in their personal life. And we've seen this rodeo before, and with Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, and we saw what happened with the one of them, and the other they kept, as we pointed out. But in regards to Ezra as an actor, like his personal life, like what I agree with everything you said, Jesse, and I second everything you said. But the character, okay, I wasn't the biggest fan of Ezra Miller going into the role. Even after seeing Zack Snyder's Justice League and the full vision of the character that Zack Snyder laid out, I'm still not sold on it. Plus, they don't know how to run, right? So that's a whole different conversation.
We're told that Barry is intelligent by the suit that he crafted, right? Mm-hmm. But we're not shown. There's so much of Barry Allen that is missing. Now, I think the TV show ended up becoming a bit of a wet fart, but it started out really good. I think Grant Gustin was a very capable Barry Allen.
I still think Grant Gustin is a great Barry Allen. Like, regardless of the show's quality and how it's wavered over the past couple of years, like, I think the first few seasons of The Flash are fantastic, and then everything else after that's depends. But Grant was always the one constant, or one of the constants. That he was always good with what they've given him. And to me, like, that was the Flash. I bought into it, and maybe that's why I was so not on board when Ezra got casted, because Ezra's look is not what I envisioned Barry Allen looking like. I don't want to come off as that comic book guy where they need to be exactly what they are on the page. I appreciate new interpretations, but with Ezra's performance and what they were doing, I wasn't too sold on it. I liked it, but I didn't love it.
Some of its presence. It's not just like a look. Like, they made
how they carry
Barry. a even like meeker version of like a Peter Parker-esque kind of character, and it didn't fit, and it felt weird. And the more I feel like I see from Ezra's Barry, the less I like it.
Right. And Warner Brothers already has invested so much into this Flash movie, going through multiple different scripts and directors, as you mentioned off the top. And it's been in production hell, and it still seems like it is. I know Maddie Gunner asked in the chat if the movie's done shooting. We have no idea. And yes, Pat, I totally agree. Like Grant Gustin, I think he embodies the Flash and Barry Allen really well. But this movie now,
honestly, this would be a way to do it. Just cinematically, instead of recasting Barry, just go straight to
now
Wally.
You gotta introduce this Wally West character if he's already not in this Flash movie. You gotta introduce him again, and that's again just wipe it. But they're not going to. That's the thing. Warner Brothers, talk about Sony having issues with their cinematic universe. Warner Brothers doesn't know what the hell they're doing either.
Just cancel everything except for Shazam. We'll just have the Shazam verse. Let's just go forward with that.
Cancel everything but the Batman at this point. Like, let everything play out. Let everything come out. We'll see it. We'll watch it. We'll love it or hate it. And then the Batman, just let them keep rocking with that. Don't put any more superheroes in that don't look like bats. And then just restart later. Just do it again. Start properly.
If you're already giving up on Superman and doing God knows what with the DC EU Batman, like we're just all of a sudden gonna have a damn near 80-year-old Bruce Wayne be the Batman for the DC. I'm like, that just start over. And Wonder Woman 84, for anyone that disagrees, I don't mean to offend you, but that was an absolute dud in my opinion. I think it's one of the worst DCEU films. It's right there with like Suicide Squad.
I don't want to say that, but yeah, I agree. It was a big swing and a miss for me too. It was a big swing and a miss. And I like the cast. Fuck.
I did too, and I love the first Wonder Woman. So I think that it's unfortunate, but we'll see how Aquaman Lost Kingdom does, and Flash, and Shazam Fury of the Gods. But I think that this might be, if it just keeps tanking, it might be time to start over. And Warner Brothers, I was going to bring this up earlier, but Zaslav from Discovery is buying up Warner Brothers, and there's going to be a lot of new leadership, and maybe that is some of the course correcting that we need, because DC has the potential to be Warner Brothers' biggest property.
It should be.
It should be.
But and I'll finish on this, right? Ezra is, Ezra's one of the figureheads now. It's like Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, Jason Momoa's Aquaman, and Ezra Miller's Flash in your universe, right? And I'm not putting Zachary Levi's Shazam up there because the character's just not as big as Wonder Woman or the Flash, at least not yet. But you have Ezra there, and now you're about to reboot your whole universe with this whole movie that's coming out next year. And your lead is not the best, and they are getting themselves in legal trouble in person, and they're making themselves seem like this not great person. And again, I don't want to call him a bad guy, for lack of a better word, but how he's looking, it's not great. And this is the face of your big franchise, or one of the faces of your big franchise.
And I don't understand why Warner Brothers is really continuously over like the last year refusing to comment. Like I said, very shortly after issues came up with Johnny Depp, they had the statement come out and everything, and they're like, we have to disassociate, recasting Johnny Depp will not be working with us anymore. But there's like time and again now proven examples of what's happening with Ezra Miller, and I guess maybe they think they can't get ahead of it because Flash is pretty much in the can already. Whereas when it happened with Johnny Depp, they're like, okay, we can make a change between now and when Secrets of Dumbledore comes out. But they don't want to hurt their potential box office for The Flash, which business-wise, I understand it, but ethically, it's an issue. And I think Warner Brothers is proving to be very inept. And I think a lot of the leadership there is dropping the ball. And I hope that when the Discovery merger happens, that they make a lot of changes, starting with holding people accountable to their actions. So anything else you want to say about Ezra?
I don't want to badmouth anybody at Warner or whoever's on the Flash movie.
I'll do it. No,
it's just that Ezra is a problematic lead, and their new movie is coming out in 2 weeks, and this comes out, and
I was like, no, Flash is a ways out. Yeah, I already forgot about
Ezra Miller is his name, or their name's on the poster, and you see their face in the trailer. They're all over the place. And this happens, and then the Flash, a part of this bigger franchise right now for Warner Brothers, got pushed back. God knows how long. It was like 8 months or whatever. But then again, this happens, and we don't know what the future of this is. Right? We don't know the future of what this whole stuff with Ezra's about. So things could get worse. Then what do you do at that point? Then what do you do?
And before we move on, I'll just bring up Maddie's comment here. So I hope Miller's team can get them the help they need. It's not on Warner Brothers to do that, so I hope they can get them help before we're reading the worst headline we can get. Very true. Right. Very true.
Facts.
So
exactly.
With that, we will close out and get to the last section of our show here, so Chris can get off and, I don't know, maybe take a nap between some of his other shows that he's got going on today.
I'm fine.
He had some. He said Chris was brought to us today by Dunkin' Donuts, I believe, right? Some Dunkin' coffee.
The entire day I will be powered by Dunkin'. I don't drink coffee, so this is going to be fun. It's going to be a fun day.
All right, transitioning into our recommendations, Chris, you said that you had a few to bring up, some movie that you watched for the first time, some other things to share with the group here. Again, thank you guys for joining us today. If you haven't already, please like the video, subscribe, and we could definitely, especially with our news and views show, we appreciate more sharing the link. We would love to get more live viewers. I know you guys definitely show up for our late night shows and trailer reactions, so we thank you for that. Chris, go ahead.
So over the last few weeks, I've been having a hard time sitting down and watching a movie, solely just because I just don't have the patience, or I just don't want to. But I want to say a couple days ago, or this past weekend, I fell back into the DC animated universe, the new one that was established with Justice League War. And I know we talked about it on the Speakeasy last night briefly, but I watched a bunch of the Superman-led ones. And Superman is a character that I've had a rocky relationship with. I'm not in love with the character like I am a Batman or a Spider-Man per se.
I will say the new 52 animated movies that they've been doing definitely took Superman down a different path. Some hate it. I kind of enjoy it because it is different. Right. He's less of a Boy Scout. He's kind of jock Superman, which is, I think, fun.
And I watched a lot of the Batman ones. There's a ton of Batman ones, like Hush, some of the Batman and Robin, or Batman versus Robin, all them.
I love hating Damian Wayne.
Yeah, Damian's the worst, but that's a part of his charm. But I did watch 3 in a part of that universe, right? The Death of Superman, Reign of the Supermen, and Justice League Dark Apocalypse War. So the ones I hadn't seen, a part of the universe, I watched all 3 of them, and I very much enjoyed it. It's definitely this is a television series. It's like Marvel, it's like the MCU. Each movie's an installment. They're all connected. They all take place chronologically, and I love these. Like the Reign of the Superman, we got to see Steel, and we got to see Superboy and Cyborg Superman, and the little twists they make with the characters. I very much enjoy them to fit what they're doing here. And Apocalypse War is probably I don't want to say Invincible-esque, but it's darn close. And
I know it's real dark and real graphic.
And I wasn't ready for that. I was not ready for that.
The animated universe is so much not everything's a home run, but it's so much cleaner than the live action one, and it's so much more focused. And honestly, in less
narrative
time,
follow.
Yeah, in less time they have more character development. I feel more fulfilled watching a lot of the animated stuff. Like Throne of Atlantis is awesome. I can point to so many animated movies that are better than the live action equivalent. I think Throne of Atlantis is better than Aquaman. I think Assault on Arkham is better than either Suicide Squad movie. I love the Suicide Squad, so I'll say that.
Oh no, the Suicide Squad. Yeah, that's where you got me twisted a little bit.
Well, yeah. I mean, I like the Suicide Squad quite a bit, but Assault on Arkham is better than both. I think.
No, and the animated stuff, like we were talking about this in the Speakeasy last night, which is currently on Flick and Reel's channel. Go check that out.
Absolutely,
But
we had a
the
great time
animated
last night.
stuff, the animated stuff, DC has a chokehold on, and they're just so damn good at it. And those 3 movies that I watched to fill in the gaps for me, especially Apocalypse War, which I think I can say this without really. I mean, it's a spoiler without a spoiler. This is the end. Apocalypse War is the end of that timeline.
Which makes sense because New 52 ended like 5 years ago. So it makes sense for them to wrap up the New 52 verse in animation.
So this is the end, and it's pretty gnarly to be blunt. But those 3 I really enjoyed. I rewatched Superman, Batman, Apocalypse. Totally different movie. Oh god,
I love that movie
that
so
movie is
much.
So rad.
It's one of my
not
favorite
the best thing ever,
DC
but it's
animated
so
movies.
sick.
It honestly has my favorite Batman and my favorite Supergirl moment are both in that movie.
What's the favorite Batman and Supergirl moment? Tell me.
So my favorite Batman moment is when they go to Apokolips and Batman threatens Darkseid with blowing up his entire planet if he doesn't surrender Supergirl. And I was like, the balls of Bruce Wayne. And Darkseid like has him in a chokehold. He's like, you're bluffing. And then he says the code to his Hellspores out loud. And I was like, my guy. Like, that is one of my favorite Batman moments ever.
It's
and
rad.
Then Supergirl was just her beating the shit out of Darkseid for a while.
The Smallville portion at the end of the film it's stellar. I don't want to spoil too much of it if folks haven't seen it. I highly recommend watching it. It came out 12 years ago. Wow. And it's less than 90 minutes long. It's so concise. Wonder Woman's in this, and she's pretty rad too. There's a whole sequence on Themyscira that is so sick and awesome. So that and Justice League versus the Fatal Five. This is a movie that's within the Justice League Unlimited canon. So Batman the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series, Batman Beyond, all that stuff. It's a continuation, same voice cast, but now you include a character like Jessica Cruz, a part of this. She's the resident Green Lantern, and Diane Guerrero voices her
from Doom Patrol and
Doom
Isabella
Patrol
from Encanto.
Yeah. So she voices Jessica Cruz, and she's the perfect. I think if you were to do Jessica Cruz in live action, Diane Guerrero should just like.
Oh, that would be so good. Now that's in my head. Head.
I think she'd be perfect. I think she's gone on record saying that too. But that movie, it's not the best thing ever.
I'm still here for Matt Bomer's Superman.
That too. But Justice League versus the Fatal Five, it's more of Justice League Unlimited, and I very much enjoyed it. I thought it was enough nostalgia for me while also just expanding on that timeline because I miss it. I love those shows, dear. Like I guarantee you do. A lot of us do.
I feel like you'd appreciate when everyone was doing their Batman rankings. Then I included a bunch of straight to DVD Batman films.
As you should. You should. And like, there's a bunch of incredible. Like one of my favorite Batman movies, Under the Red Hood. Like that's one I constantly rewatch.
That was in my top 5 of Batman movies.
As it should. And then last thing I won't talk about for too long, but I watched Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist for the first time a couple of days ago, and it was very cute. Very cute, and very. Michael Cera's so good at playing that character, like that type of nerdy, awkward guy in a band.
I just watched the Michael Cera movie as well. I just watched Jack Black and Michael Cera in year 1 because Lauren had never seen it, and I think it was on Netflix. And I was like, "Have you ever seen?" She loves Jack Black. I was like, "Have you ever seen this?" And she's like, "No." I was like, "It's real dumb, but I'm excited to watch it." And it is real dumb. I forgot how many cameos are in that movie, but I love year 1. As far as my recommendations, I also I'm going to send you guys over to Warner Brothers and after shit talking them and HBO Max.
Yeah, I watched a lot of those on HBO Max. A lot of them.
I binged the 2 available seasons of His Dark Materials with many geekdom legends such as Daphne Keane from Logan and James McAvoy, obviously from things like Wanted and X-Men, Chronicles of Narnia, and such. Also, who am I? Lin-Manuel Miranda's in that show.
And talk about Encanto. We're all about Encanto over here.
And I never thought I would say this, but a role that Lin-Manuel Miranda played made me cry. So
you obviously didn't watch Hamilton.
Well, I've watched Hamilton many times, but it's usually not Hamilton himself that makes me feel emotionally invested in that.
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood.
You got Philip or Eliza probably are the emotional core of Hamilton.
Oh. Okay.
Anyways, so my recommendation, if you guys haven't checked out His Dark Materials, season 3 is underway. So go check that out and get caught up. They're only about 9 or 10 episodes a season. I also finally started getting back into watching Barry, also on HBO Max with Bill Hader. Love
I gotta watch that. I think I like that.
I watched the first season twice, and now I'm finally getting into the second season. So,
did it take you a minute to dig that? Is that why you watched it twice?
No, I watched it once, told myself I was going to get back. Like, I watched the first season, and I was like, oh, I'm going to watch season 2. And I never got around to it. And so I asked Lauren if she would watch it. So I rewatched the first season with her, got caught up to where I was, and now we're watching season 2 together.
Word. Okay. Because that's
how it is with bingey things. Sometimes you do a hard binge for part of it, and then you just kind of lose it. That happened with me in Lock and Key as well. It's a few things that I've watched a bunch of and then just kind of got separated.
I did that recently with Atlanta, FX's Atlanta, which is currently on its third season.
That. Well, Lauren just watched all of Euphoria in like a week.
Yeah, God, that's a like I did the same thing with Euphoria before its second season. I binged the entire first season in like 2 days, and I was not okay on a variety of different levels. But recommendations, Atlanta. If for those
out there, what's Atlanta on, by the way?
It's on Hulu.
Okay.
It's on the next day on Hulu.
Zazie Beetz, Donald Glover, is Lakeith
Brian
Stanfield
Tyree Henry, also? Lakeith Stanfield. That's your core 4. They really took the show in a different direction this season, at least in regards to location. It's out of Atlanta for the first time, and I haven't seen
advertising. I'm suing.
Right, damn. I haven't seen episode 3 yet, but I really dug the first 2 episodes of season 3. Season 1's episode is
Can you
funny,
pitch Atlanta to me? Because I honestly don't even know what Atlanta's really about, and I think one of the reasons I haven't gotten into it is because of that, because I don't know what I'm getting into.
So, have you seen Twin Peaks?
No.
Okay, good, because neither did I. Because Donald Glover, he was talking about this show before it came out. He called it Twin Peaks, but like with rappers or for rappers or something. Okay. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. I still have yet to see Twin Peaks. But the show's narrative
is a Hooters-esque restaurant up here. So
you have Twin Peaks out there? There's the Twin Peaks in Oklahoma when I was living out there. Went there once, liked it. It was cool. And the food was good too. Haha, LOL.
This just in, Chris loves the hot wings at Twin Peaks.
I actually so Hooters, like do y'all have Hooters over there?
Somewhere. Like I've driven by them. They're nowhere actually.
Hooters is food. It's totally off topic, but the Hooters food, fantastic. Okay, back to Atlanta. Atlanta, the show is about main character Earn. He's played by Donald Glover. He's the manager for his cousin Paperboy, who's played by Brian Tyree Henry, and it's their lives of Earn and Paperboy trying to make it in the music business. Zazie Beetz plays Earn's significant other, and Lakeith plays Darius, who is Paperboy's best friend. He's just around. It's Lakeith Stanfield in real life, but in the show. Okay. And it's just the journey these characters go on. It's almost an anthology sometimes, where some characters may have their individual episode that have nothing to do with the plot, just to really flesh out who they are. But it's just a show about a rapper trying to make it in the music business at the end of the day. And the chaos that ensues with a bunch of social commentary on what it's like to be Black in America, how Black people view Black people, how white people view Black people, how Black folks view white people. It's a smorgasbord of things. I would say watch the
pilot. Perspective and experience extravaganza.
It totally is. And if you don't like the pilot, I wouldn't watch the show if I were you.
That's good to know, because some people are like, give it the first 5 episodes and then you'll know. But you're like, the first episode's a good indication.
No, like it's a vibe, and you'll get the gist of the show. Granted, the show gets weirder and weirder as it goes. And for those who have seen Atlanta in the chat, like Teddy Perkins is a character in an episode that rocked people's worlds when they first saw it, and what they got to do, and the themes that they tackle. It's very real, but it's a comedy. At the end of the day, the show's supposed to make you laugh. Sometimes it's not make you laugh, and I love it. And plus, I'm a Donald Glover guy, so my bias is on my face. But I say watch the pilot of Atlanta. If you don't like it, then I probably wouldn't watch it. But if you dig it, if you like these characters enough, I would say continue doing it, because it's pretty rad. I love it. It's my favorite show on TV right now.
Good job. I think I'll check that out. I'm going to put that higher on my list than it was. Well, I want to thank everyone for joining us on our longest segment of recommendations for somebody that didn't think they had any recommendations coming into the show.
I forgot.
But
I watch things sometimes.
Even with all that, we kept it under an hour. We appreciate you guys and everything that you do, supporting the channel. Brought it up last night, but I'll bring it up again. See this cool hoodie sweatshirt thing? There's a link for a couple of our graphics in the description. They're over on TeePublic. And if you grab them now, I think one or both of the designs are at a discounted price. So hop on that before it goes away. And thank you again so much for joining us. We'll see you guys next week on the next Speakeasy, unless a trailer reaction or something like that happens before then. But until then, keep it real. Let me drop this banner and this one. All right, guys. We'll see you on the next show. Goodbye.